Hello, friends! This is 30 Days of Inner Journey, Your Thought, Your Life, based on the book Thought and Life by Emmanuel through the medium Chico Xavier. It was published first time in Portuguese in Brazil, 1958. And now finally, since 2012, thanks to the efforts of the Round Publishing table, we have the opportunity of this book being in English. And we thank very much Elsa Rossi and the British Union of Spiritist Societies for allowing us to read this book and discuss. Carlos Diaz and I are here in our studios recording for you. And the reason why we're recording 30 minutes of the reading and the explanation is because this book is very concise and objective. People can watch it later through YouTube, Facebook. But then, after 30 minutes, we're gonna enter Facebook Live and we're gonna be able to address your questions regarding the chapters we're gonna read. Today, it's about chapter 1. Let us enjoy as Carlos read it for us and make one or two highlights before we extend some more explanations.
Good evening, everyone. This is chapter 1, Mirror of Life. The mind stands as the mirror of life in all places. In its ascension from earth plane towards God, under the leadership of Christ, it may be compared to the rough diamond excavated from the dark interior of the earth, which, under the guidance of the stonecutter, advances towards the magnificence of light. In primitive beings, the mind is hidden under the dross of animal instincts. In the human soul, it emerges surrounded by illusions that assault the intellect. In spirits who have perfected themselves, it becomes like a brilliant diamond reflecting the divine glory. As we study the mind from our spiritual perspective, limited as we are between the animal and the angelic states, we are impelled to interpret the mind as being the field of our awakened consciousness wherein the evolutionary phase of the knowledge allows us to function. In defining the mind as the mirror of life, we recognize the heart as the reflection and the brain as the center of its undulations, generating the force of thought that can move, create, transform, destroy, and rebuild in order to achieve refinement and sublimation. This mutual interchange vibrates throughout every realm of the universe. Everything is in a state of flux and renewal under the principles and interdependence and repercussion. Mental reflexes set the stage for the reaction of emotions. Emotionalism creates ideas. Ideas determine attitudes and words that command our actions. From such manifestations emerge the threads generating the causes from which circumstances are born, thus bringing either destruction or liberation to our lives. No one can transcend the resources of their own mind beyond the level of progress they have already attained by mere improvisation. However, we are all affected by each other's mental reflexes according to our capacity of assimilation. No one can remain immune from the continuous interplay of exchanging ideas. We live and breathe immersed in the atmosphere of the image we project and receive. Through such images, we either remain stationary under the fascination of elements that temporarily slave us, or we can absorb the regenerating ideas that promote our purification and progress. The principle of mental reflex is at the core of life. We all affect each other in creation that in turn is a reflection of the objectives of the Creator. It is very interesting, this third paragraph that says, as we study the mind from our spiritual perspective, limited as we are between the animal and the angelic states, we are impelled to interpret the mind as being the field of our awakened consciousness, wherein the evolutionary phases of our knowledge allows us to function. Very interesting. We have to reflect and think about it, so we can see where we're standing when it comes to our spiritual awakening. So,
Yes, Carlos, and yes, dear friends, we can't forget that Emmanuel, when he opened the book, in its introduction, he said that the purpose of this book is to inform us yet again that it is in our thought process, which is the reflection of ourselves, that we create the life we lead. In the first chapter of the book, he is laying the foundation. He's saying that our mind is and becomes the mirror of our life. So whatever is happening around us or within ourselves, we need to be fully aware that before we put the responsibility on somebody else, we need to take charge for it. Of course, the concept of one life is not enough to understand what we're living now. If, for example, children, if they undergo diseases and difficulties and challenges, we ask ourselves, what have they thought to actually create this life? And it's a fair question. Only the concept of life continuing, life after life, reincarnation, allows us to actually understand how we end up in situations that we don't even imagine. We're going to understand that as we think, we're projecting, and those projections are going to open vibratory currents through which we're going to receive like-minded thoughts. Mirror of life. So the first therapeutic question for us is, what are the, if we could categorize your thoughts, could you say there is a standard thought that you have in your current life? Let me give you an example. For a spirit that is very elevated, their major concern is helping others. Day in, day out, they wake up. When they are incarnated, when they are discarnated, they actually are there, and they are constantly driven to helping others. When we are at other levels, we may think constantly about paying our bills, as if it is the major source of our concerns. We may be thinking about how to be physically fit in a constant basis. We may think constantly about getting rich. Is there a problem about this? No. As long as these ideals don't become the spiritual ideal, they become just temporary objectives. It's important to be fit, to be healthy. It's important to pay the bills. It's important to have enough money to live a comfortable life, as long as we don't forget about others. Sometimes forgetting a little bit about the trimming of ourselves, the grooming of ourselves to benefit others is beneficial. You know, I know the true account of a mother. She had so much vanity inside of her that, you know, she would take care of herself so excessively that the day she got to the elderly age in her life, she went through a very difficult disease. And in that difficult disease, she could perceive the strong smell that the body was releasing. And she couldn't deal with it. It was too strong. So for her, it was very anguishing. She died feeling the odor of her own decomposition. For somebody who really focuses too much on the external, we may end up at the end of the life with the blessing of that shocking experience to really wake up and asking ourselves, what is the most important thing that I have come here to do in this life? It's important to look good as long as we're not allowing ourselves to only take care of ourselves. So what is your main standard thought in your current days? What is it? Because we change, supposedly we change. We need to change. If we go through 40, 50, 60, 70 years of our lives with the same type of thinking, ooh, that's going to be hard. That's going to be really, really hard. So he begins by saying in this chapter 1 that Carlos read for us, the mind stands at the mirror of life in all places. And he says that there is a difference. As we evolve, we change our thinking pattern. And the mind is basically instinctive in beings that are lower in the first kingdoms of the earth. And then as we get to the human kingdom, we start, opening up our intellect, and we're surrounded by illusions. Why? Because we are opening our consciousness. We're becoming awake, aware. He even uses that expression, awakening. And when we are pure spirits, then the mind is like a brilliant diamond that reflects the divine glory. That's our goal. Should you feel happy about it? Of course you should. These therapeutic moments are nothing if we don't feel them. Remember, when Jesus told our dear Nicodemus, the doctor of the law, a Pharisee who came to see Jesus and ask a major question, since he recognized that Jesus was the Messiah promised in the scriptures, he said, Master, I have studied the scriptures my whole life, and yet I don't understand how we're going to get to this promised kingdom of God. Can you please clarify to me? And Jesus very kindly says to Nicodemus, Nicodemus, it's not enough to know the scriptures. It's essential to do something you forgot, which is to feel them. And what is to feel them? To do what we're doing. Reading, stopping, and asking personal questions. Not about others in our lives, but about ourselves. We need to feel it. We needed to bring it very personal to us. That's a technique Mentor Joseph taught us. You pause and ask a question. Where am I here? Am I a primitive being that is only allowing my mind to be instinctive? Because there are many people that are still like that. Very instinctive, very reactive. They don't even think, before they say, before they do, or before they say something. But we humans are supposed to go another level, use our reasoning, and manage our feelings with consciousness. Identifying emotions is the first step. We're going to learn in this chapter about the importance of observing our emotions and managing them as a source of thoughts as well. And when we evolve, we are ready, a true prism of God's glory. And he keeps saying to us that the mind, as the mirror of life, reflects its thoughts in currents, he says undulations, generating the force of thought. André Luiz, in other books, including the book Mechanisms of Mediumship, which is yet to be in English, he says that our thoughts are mental electromagnetic forces. True, it's like electricity, but at another level. And we not only emit, but we also attract. Mirror of life. And we can move, create, transform, destroy, and rebuild. in order to achieve refinement and sublimation. That's very interesting. We may be experiencing different seasons of the year on the earth depending on where you are. And winter here for us, and for others it may be summer. Different seasons. And I'm mentioning the seasons here because in each season we have an opportunity to work our exactly the process that Emmanuel is describing to us, which is to create, to transform, to destroy and rebuild, like nature. We're like nature. Winter, according to psychological traditions in ancient times, Eastern ancient wisdom, they say winter is an opportunity for us to select the best seeds inside of us, the ones that we want to blossom in spring. If you're living summer, it's about putting in action everything you have grown during spring. So here's an opportunity for us, an opportunity to blossom. If you're watching this during springtime, it's about blossoming, exactly what he's saying, creating, transforming, exactly like the seasons of nature. Your nature. Have you ever felt yourself as part of nature? We often tend to recognize that nature is something external to us, but we are nature too. You are part of nature. We have moments in our lives in which we're blossoming virtues, others in which we're trimming, refining, as he says, or sublimating. Sublimating is about a process in which we're transforming a potential to another direction. Like, for example, Sigmund Freud talking about the sublimation of our sexual forces, and Spiritism recognizes it. If you read the book Sex and Destiny, if you read the book Sexo e Vida, which is not in English yet, Sex and Life, Emmanuel describes to us the sexual force being an opportunity for us to bring it from our reproductive sane vital center up, like Freud recommended, and boosting our intellect. We don't have, some people have sex addictions. Why? They haven't learned how to manage those and sublimate, transform, rechannel. Sublimation is about rechanneling that energy. So Emmanuel is telling us that through our thinking process, through our mind, we create, he says, move, transform, destroy, rebuild in order to refine and sublimate. He says that inevitably we're going to think, emit, and receive. André Luiz calls it the law of the mental field, which is we attract what we emit. Of course, you may be asking, but Vanessa, I'm going through such a tough time, and I have always dreamed of a good marriage, a healthy kid, a good job, a healthy life, a wealthy opportunity in life, beauty, whatever we may dream of. Is it all bad? No. It's about the search of goodness and the beauty, which is harmony in the universe. But why are we not there yet? Is it because you're being punished? No. No, 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 no. God does not punish us. Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, in a message that is coming about in the Spiritist magazine, says that God does not punish us. He corrects us. He gives us educational opportunities. But we know, like when you look up in the star, in the sky, and you see a star, an astronomer is going to come and say, that star is not actually a star. It's dead already. And you may ask, but how come I can see it here? You're seeing the light that has been traveling throughout the cosmos, light years away. But its source is dead. It's like us in previous lives. We emitted thoughts, feelings, we programmed, we emitted it, and this mental electromagnetic force still vibrates. Where? In our spiritual body. Leon Denis, in the book After Death, talks about how our perispirit, our spiritual body, stores everything we think, feel, say, and do. And it vibrates. When it's discordant, with our deep conscience, as in question 621 of the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, we get to know that every law of God is recorded in our conscience, and as such, if we have any vibration that is imprinted and stored in our perispirit that does not align with the code of God in our conscience, it stays there until we expunge it. And we are only going to expunge it when we change our vibrational tone. We need to change our thoughts to really change our lives. This is ancient wisdom. It's not only in Spiritism. It has been spread out throughout the millennia in humanity and also in the current times. If you read all the books that Louise Hay wrote, and many others like Wayne Dyer, and many others, even science comes to the conclusion that we need to change our thoughts to become healthier. And Emmanuel keeps expanding in the chapter, saying this mutual interchange vibrates throughout every realm of the universe, like the dead star, that you can still see the light. You may have changed from a previous life to this one, but the consequences of some thoughts, feelings, words, and actions still are traveling and still pulsating, and we need to take responsibility. That's all that is. So what do you need to do? What do I need to do when life presents to us unexpected outcomes? First, breathe in and out. Second, communion with God. When we're strong in our connection, we're not gonna drop the ball of our duties in this universe. You and I have unique duties in this universe, and we cannot drop the ball for a single moment. Why? Because many people depend on us. We are interdependent. We can't forget about it, right? And here we have, he's going to reveal to us another aspect. He says, the mental reflexes set the stage for the reaction of emotions, and the reaction of emotions creates ideas. Now we understand why we need to focus so much on observing our emotions, because there is a straight connection with our vibratory pattern, our thinking process. So we need to learn about it in order to change our ideas. What are you feeling when people say, I can't stop thinking about this? Instead of focusing on that thought, observe your feelings. What is nourishing you in the emotional level that is making you stay stuck in a way in that thinking process? Let me give you an example. Obsession. In mediumistic meetings, we may see spirits who are obsessors. It's what we call spirit attachment in non-spiritist circles. The spirit wants to avenge himself because of something that wasn't nice, wasn't done properly with him or her. If the counselor, through the medium, talks to this spirit simply by saying, oh, you know, but you need to love, he's not going to go to the core of it. We need to ask, what is it that you're feeling? I'm feeling anger. Okay. Why are you feeling angry? Because this person did this, that, and the other to me. Okay, that's valid. Okay. Do you think by continuing this feeling of anger, you're going to feel happier? No, but it doesn't matter to me. Are you sure? Have you thought about those who love you and they are looking forward to seeing you, but they can't because you're stuck in that anger? So now it's about dealing with emotion. Once we start dealing with this emotion and the effects of the cultivation of them, we can go to the roots of our ideas, as Emmanuel is saying, and reorganize our thoughts. No wonder Antonio Damasio, the neuroscientist who leads the field of the neuroscience of emotion, came to the conclusion that our reasoning can only be boosted when we accept that we are emotional beings. You and I are emotional beings, not because we cry, but we cry. We cry and we have the glands that should be used when the proper time comes. No shame. But the thing is not about being instinctive in our crying, but is knowing why we're crying. It's okay. Feel it as long as we identify it so we can manage it. And he says here at the end of this chapter, as beautiful as it is, no one can transcend the resources of their own mind beyond the level of progress they have already attained. So we cannot pretend to be who we're not. In the book Liberation, we've come to know that in the spiritual realm there is even an apparatus that is used by spirits to observe the tone of our vibrations. We cannot pretend to be who we're not because we're vibrating beings. When Kardec in the Spirits book asks, what are spirits? What is the definition? And they say, you know, it's hard to say in your words, but let's say it's like a flame. A flame vibrates, radiates. We cannot pretend to be who we're not. It's good. And he says not only that, but as we are who we are, we're going to attract like-minded minds. He says we're all affected by each other's mental reflexes according to our capacity of assimilation. So it's impossible for you and I to be here quiet in the mouth, but not feeling what each other are thinking. It would be impossible. It's, for example, when you go to the book No Solar by André Luiz. They're having dinner, and André Luiz, in Miss Laura's home, observes that her niece is seated at another table by herself eating. And Miss Laura is asked by André Luiz, why is your niece over there, not here with us? Because she is too nervous. If she eats here with us, she's gonna contaminate our food with her vibrations. She needs to learn how to calm down, how to feel less nervous, so those vibrations are not going to be contaminating everything, including her food. So next time we think, I'm not gonna say anything, it's not about saying, it's about thinking, it's about feeling. So we need to quiet the mind down, like Divaldo Franco. He told us about one day, our dear Joana de Angelis wanted to bring him to see, to visit firsthand a friend who discarnated in the spiritual realm. But she recommended him, when you come, make sure you're silent. And he was puzzled, like saying, of course I will be silent, but I don't understand why she's saying this. And they were there, and there was like almost like a glass from where they were to see the friend who discarnated and was in a spiritual hospital room. And the minute he looked at the friend, he saw a little bit of the trembling. And then Joana de Angelis turned to him and says, see, that's why I'm telling you, quiet the mind. So we need to learn how to quiet the mind and learn that what we're thinking is affecting everyone. It's like we're living immersed, André Luiz says, in the lake of life, the big ocean of life, like fish in the water. Whatever you do is going to affect everybody else, inevitably. And it's the law of the mental field. We attract where we emit. And if you think we can be immune, he wraps up the chapter saying, no one can remain immune from the continuous interplay of exchanging ideas. So if you think, but I'm going to be immune, is it possible nowadays for us to be completely shielded of emotional contagions? No. But can we strive to go to higher levels of shielding? Yes. Where do I begin? Thoughts and feelings. We can shield ourselves by raising our vibration the more we can. Many people ask, how can I shield myself? I'm going to visit a place, it's very hard. Should I see a bubble of light envelop me? No, that's selfishness. If you visualize yourself in a bubble of light protecting you from others, you think you're better than others, then you're not protected. On the contrary, you're more exposed. And don't forget, the perispirit has a lot of pores. In the book Evolution into Worlds, we learn about the porosity, how we exchange these vibrations, and we're not immune. So the only thing that can help us is raising our vibrations when we're tuned into the currents of thoughts that are constructive, as André Luiz says in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship. Then we are at another level. That's it, my friends. As he says, we all affect each other in creation. That in turn is a reflection of the objectives of the Creator. Our last question, so we can wrap up this moment of reading and brief discussions. The therapeutic journey within. How do you think you're affecting everyone in your life? Which thoughts are you emitting? Are we polluting the environment where we live in, where we work? Or are we constructing beautiful fields of vibration with beautiful thoughts and beautiful feelings? It's a matter of coaching ourselves. If you're asking how you can begin it, affirmations. These books that were psychographed by Chico Xavier, Divaldo Franco, and many others are wonderful opportunities to coach our minds, create a new spiritual, physical disposition, and make us feel much more aligned with the objective of the Creator, as says our dear Emmanuel. Tomorrow, chapter 2 is about our will. For now, we're going to open our Facebook Live at Kardec Radio to answer to your potential questions. Thank you.